Tractate Bava Batra, page 88, ודובר אמת בלבבו. Situations like people who extraordinary behave in honesty. It's the framework of this very important daf. I'd like to start with the story about one of my Rabbim, one of my teachers. He was a well-known rabbi in Yerushalayim, and one time he was standing at the bus station, and a taxi cab stopped, and he said, "You need to go from Yerushalayim to the area of Tel Aviv." So he said to him, "I will charge you so and so, let's say 50 shekel." And he was at that time praying, so he did not respond. So the driver said, "All right, I'll give you, if the two students next to you, all three together, I'll give you the same price as the bus, which is 15 shekel each." And he was still kind of praying, so he did not respond. Then the taxi driver gave the last approach, and he said to my teacher, "All right, 10 shekel each, 30 shekel, done deal, take it or leave it." And my teacher just finished davening, praying. So he went on a taxi cab, and he paid him 150 shekel. So the driver said, "You must have made a mistake. We agreed that 10 shekel each, you and your two students, together it is 30 shekel. So he responded, he said, "No. Originally speaking, when you proposed with 50, I agree because I have to rush to Tel Aviv area to be the present of a wedding, etc., to one of my students. So I agree upon the 50 shekel, but I couldn't answer you because I was davening, I was praying, saying Shema, whatever it is, I couldn't answer. But I made a mental note, I made in my mind a decision that I want to go with you, but obviously I couldn't answer. But then you reduce the price, halachically speaking, based on the daf we're going to study today, it's not going to happen. I have to go by the way my mindset originally agreed upon, which is the full price." And obviously the taxi driver, who was a not religious fellow, was shocked and amazed by act of righteousness of my teacher. But that's what King David said, that's what we said in our word of introduction, "V'dover emet v'lvavo." When a person's come before the heavenly court, it's a well-known statement of the rabbis. They said that the first question they ask a person when he's no longer among the living is "Nasata v'natata be'emunah," meaning you make a business transaction with trust and full faithful way. When it happened, sometimes, especially in those days, they used to have mishkolot, they used to have measurements, and you see the weight, there's a lot of way to cheat the customers, etc. That's crucial, because if it's gezel arabim, if there's something that you cannot measure because you stole something even in a small amount from many people, this is very harsh, this is very hard to deal with. So as you see, we are going to deal with an issue that in the bridge of dishonesty, when and where and how the halacha interfere and said that's the proper way, that's not, and when it's a extraordinary lifnim meshurat adin. We're also going to understand the difference between purchasing or selling to a chaver, a Torah scholar, Talmud Chacham, versus ignorant, someone who's am haaretz. So here we are, page 88, 8 lines from the top of the page. גופה אמר שמואל, הנוטל כלי מן האומן לבקרו ונאנס בידו חייב. Shmuel said, imagine a situation, a fellow went to a store, he took a vessel from a craftsman, and he just want to examine the vessel. It happens many times, right? People touch materials, people check everything and anything when they want to buy something. But unfortunately it breaks. You see it in a store. I saw it several times in the local stores, in Giant, in a Rite Aid. I saw it once. I saw it in the Stop and Shop, and other big chain store. Somebody took some item, and all of a sudden, boom, it broke. Usually the store policy they let it go, but here he said, "Chayav, you need to compensate the craftsman for the damage." But the Gemara said something fascinating, big chidush. They said, "V'hanemilei hu dekitzei damei." When the value, the monetary value of that vessel was fixed, so he examined the vessel merely to ensure there is nothing wrong with it. And he assumed that if he finds there is no defect, he will buy it. You see here a fascinating story. A fellow went to a butcher, like a slaughtering house in those days, and agba atma de bisra. So he lifted the thigh of a meat. He just wanted to examine it, and all of a sudden it was a horse rider, obviously a thief. So while he was lifting that item, a horse rider jumped in while riding the horse and grabbed it from him and ran away. He went before the rabbi, asked him what to do. He imposed upon him to pay the monetary compensation for that thigh. It's a mechir, if it's a well-known price, then that's the halacha. Here's another story that a person brought dlu'in, is a certain produce, in order to sell them. And that's the place that Rav Kahana Pumnara was the rabbi there. Atu kulei alma shakul krakra. So each and every person came there and want to check that produce was a pumpkin. Amar lehu hen mukdashim l'shamayim. So he said, I consecrated those pumpkin. Atu lekamed Rav Kahana. Amar lehu en adam makdish davar sheno shelo. They said a person cannot consecrate something to heaven that is not his. Why? Because those people who examine it, they already have it in their domain. Because the Torah said in Leviticus 27:14, "Ve'ish asher yakdish et beito." So the person can consecrate it only something that he owns. That's the Gemarrah Bava Batra, as we study on page 68. But here, since the people already examine it, so the seller cannot consecrate it because it's not his anymore. If it wasn't a fixed price for those items, so it belongs to the seller and it's proper for him, and he is capable to consecrate it. Tanu Rabbanan. Here we talk about the difference, as we explained in the introduction, between chaver, a Torah scholar, and ignorant. Halokeach yarak min hashuk, someone purchased from people like ignorance, that we suspected them, amaya ratzot chashudim al ha'masrot, we suspected the person who's not separated tithe, which is obligation in Eretz Yisrael to separate the tithe, and the produce is considering da mai, we are not sure if he did it, and therefore by the rabbinic law he needs to take a tithe from that because maybe the guy didn't do it. ובערער והניח אפילו כל היום כולו לא קנה ולא התחייב מעשר. גמר בליבו לקנותו, but if you make a decision it's hard to purchase it, קנה ונתחייב במעשר. להחזירו אם אפשר שכבר נתחייב לה במעשר. He cannot return it because he already committed himself to do tithe on that. ולאסרו אפשר שכבר מפחיתן בדמים, because the moment you take out the tithe, it's already reduced the price of value. הכיצד, what should he do? מאסרו ונותן לו דמי מעשר. So he basically needs to tithe the produce, give the tithe to an appropriate recipient, and give the seller the money in exchange for the tithe as he is separated from it. So the Gemara said, "Ato mishum degamar belibo liknot kana v'nitchayev b'maaser," because he didn't higbi al menat liknot. He didn't lift it up in order for him to purchase it. He only checked it. So why he cannot return it without being obligated to make it tithe? Here we talk about God-fearing person, כגון רב ספרא דקיים בנפשי ודובר מלבבו. This is like the story of Rav Safra, that he followed the book of Psalm chapter 15 and speak truth in his heart. So the story of Rav Safra, it's in several places. Rav Safra wants to sell a donkey, but while he's reciting Shema, someone came and gave him the proper price. He couldn't stop in the middle of Shema. The fellow increased the price, increase. So when Safra finished the Shema, the guy was willing to give him way more than he asked. But he was a pious, God-fearing man. So he said, no, I'm going to give you the original price. And just because I'm making my prayer, you thought I'm not about to sell it to you, but I was just praying. So therefore, I'm not going to charge you or to take or to accept from you more than the price that I agree in my heart, in my mind, to sell. Now, the last Mishnah in this beautiful chapter dealing with a law of measurement. I would like to share first and foremost the historical concept. In those days, they have a physical measurement, and sometimes the stones or the items they put in one side was sticky and carry some weight. So they said that a person have to have extra careful with that. So they said, hasiton, a wholesaler, meaning someone who sell a large quantity to stores, mekaneach midotav echad le-30 yom. He must clean his measuring vessel, which are used for measuring liquids such as oil and wine, one in every 30 days, because the residue of the liquids stick on the measure and reduce its capacity. ובעל הבית אחד ל-12 חודש. And basically the homeowner, once in a 24 month, that's in anyone who used oil and wine in those days. So that's the special vessels that they used in those days. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Omer chiluf advarim. He said that just the opposite. The wholesaler needs to do it every 12 months, and the homeowner every 30 days. Chenvani mekaneach midotav פעמיים בשבת, storekeeper twice a week, וממחה משקלותיו פעם אחת בשבת. So he needs to cleanse his weight once a week. So obviously he needs to do it once a week because, as we said, it can carry and stick in oil, or Yosef said all kind of ideas that cause that to be a little heavier, and therefore it will be dishonest to charge people by something that is not really the truth, a measurement of weight. I have a past congregant in Maryland that used to do it for the government, and he told me in endless situation, even the gas stations, he used to come with his computers, and it turns that many times they cheated on those prices they put for gasoline. So it means it can happen in any store at any time. When you go to a regular store and measure it, it can happen for a reason or not for a reason, but it can happen naturally, it can happen intentionally. But this is serious because soon you see it's גזל הרבים. הוא מקנח מאזניים על משקל ומשקל, על כל משקל ומשקל. אמר רבי שמעון גמליאל באמת דברים בלח. He said this applies specifically when it's a moist item, which are likely to adhere to the measuring vessel. But he said, אבל ביבש אינו צריך. But if it's a dry goods, it's not adhere to the measuring vessels, one does not need to clean the measuring vessels in that level. The Rashbam said that there's nothing stick in them. Page 88b, continue with the Mishnah. They said how one can measure a merchandise in order to sell it. So they said, v'chayav le'achriya lo tefach. So he obligated to let the pants of the scale that will hold the merchandise tilt an extra handbreadth for the buyers by adding weight to that side. היה שוקל לו עין בעין נותן לו גרומים ל10 ולח ול1 ב20 ביבש. Now we talk about midot, the measurement, the nefach, method of weighting. מקום שנהגו לעמוד בדקה לא יעמוד בגסה. בגסה לא יעמוד בדקה, למחוק לא יקדוש, לקדוש לא ימחוק. So again, you go by the way that people are accustomed. If it's a small measuring, one not measure it with the large. If it's a large, not with the small. And the place that the level the top of the measurement vessel to remove the substance heaped above its edges. One may not heap it, and vice versa. How do you know? Rabbi Lakish, the Torah said in Deuteronomy chapter 25 verse 15, which means in general the seller should give a little more to a buyer to make sure that he is not in a framework of being 100% honest, not dishonest with measurement. יחם הסיפה היה שוקל לו עין בעין נותן לו גרומין ויחרד דאורייתא איך יעיב לעין בעין אלא רישא במקום שנהגו וכי יתמר דריש לקיש הסיפה יתמר. היה שוקל לו עין בעין נותן לו גרומין מנען מילה אמר ריש לקיש דאמר קרא וצדק צדק משלך ותן לו. So basically you tzadek, you just be righteous with what is yours and give it to the buyer. So וכמה גרומים. So what additional amount giving? אמר רבי אבא בר ממן, אמר רב, 1 ל10 בליטרה ואילך ול10 ליטרין. So the Gemara said 1 ל10 באילך ו1 ל20 ביבש. היא באה לו איך יקרא, אמר 1 ב10 באילך ו10 דילך ו1 מ20 ביבש ל20 דיבש. או דילמה 1 מ10 ל10 בדילך ול20 דיבש. left it take on. Now we're going to something very heavy and painful. Unfortunately, many people stumbling in this manner. It's the punishment for using false measures. Before we read this Gemara, I would like to read from the Rashbam, Hilchot Gneva, chapter 7. The punishment for using false weights and measures, the Rashbam said, is extremely severe. The Shulchan Aruch and the Sema in Choshen Mishpat 231 said, as well as the Rashbam, as the sinner cannot properly repent, and it's considered as though he denies the exodus from Egypt, because the whole idea is a lack of faith if someone did such a thing, that they cheated in the measurement. The punishment for false sale, or basically take advantage of people or cheated people when it's come to measurement, is much severer than one involved with improper forbidden sexual relations. Why? נאמר בהן האל וזה נאמר בהם אלה. So it means that it's in the examine of the words letter in the Torah, it's larger. משמע דהי אל כשהוא דכתיב ואת אלי הארץ לקח. גבי הראיות למה הכתיב אלה, ההוא למהות המידות מכרת. In short, it's serious. ולמה יודפיו? דעתם אפשר בתשובה והאחה לא אפשר בתשובה. Because how a person can repent if there are so many people who cheated. So many people take advantage. You don't know the name, you don't know the people. אמר רבי לוי קשה גזל אדיוט יותר מגזל גבוה. רבי לוי said also, if someone robbed an ordinary person, it's more severe than robbing the Most High, which is taking consecrated property. Why? So it said, שזה הקדים חטא למעילה, וזה הקדים מעילה לחטא. Because if you look at the language of the Torah, so the regular robber, the verse said sin before the misuse, and here the misuse before the sin. So the Magid Duvna, the great Rabbi Yaakov from the city, European city of Duvna, which is in Poland, explained in the book called Mishlei Yaakov on Parashat Vayikra. He says, Mashal is like an allegory for Tinok, for a young man that stole from his father a lot of money, and the father heard about it. He took the money that he stole from him, but didn't do anything to his son. So then, unfortunately, the boy went ahead and he stole something from a stranger, from another person. So then the father took what he stole and he punished severely the son, physically, etc. So they said, the boy went to his father and says, what's going on? He says, why you punish me now much severer than all the other stealing I did in the past? So the father said, look, in the past when you steal something, you steal it from me. I'm your father. So the action themselves, I wasn't so angry because I'm responsible for you. You are mine or you're my child. So I give you whatever you need. If you cheat, if you steal from me, steal my son. When I take it back from you, I have what it's damaged, and I'm fine, I'm healed. Versus when you do it to a stranger, so in addition to a bad action, I feel that you have a bad spirit in a sense, because you have in your heart to go and do such a thing to somebody outside of our family. So therefore, I'm not come down until I gave back to the person you stole from anything that you have stolen, and that wasn't sufficient, but also I need to fix your brain, your mind, the way you're thinking. So therefore, he said it's a kind of mashal, it's an allegory, kashe gezel bnei adam migezel shamayim. So stealing from a fellow man, it's much severer than quote unquote stealing from heaven, from the consecrated item to Beit HaMikdash, which is between man and his fellow. Is the famous Gemarrah and Mishnah in Yomi said that sin between man and his fellow, even Yom Kippur, will not appease until a person appease his fellow. ואמר רבי לוי בו רואה שלום כמידת הקדוש ברוך הוא מידת בשר בדם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ברך ישראל ב22 וקילן ב8, ברכן ב22 אם בחוקותיי עד קוממיות, וקילם ב8 ואם חוקותיי תימאסו עד ואת חוקותם גלה נפשם. ולמשה רבנו ברכם ב8 וקילם ב22, ברכן ב8, page 89, והם שמוע ועד לעובדם וקילם ב22, והם לא תשמע ואין קונה. So basically the idea is that in a way it's tried to compare Almighty God to the greatest of the greatest prophets, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses. When God blessed, it was with 22 letters, curse 8, versus Moses, when it was blessed, it was 8, curses 22. So the concept is, as we said earlier, that this is a person should be extraordinarily careful when it's come to because if you look at the verses, they said ve'en koneh, and no man shall buy. So that's the Deuteronomy, when Moses expressed that the hey just before the vav in the alphabet, starting with the vav and ending with the hey, encompasses the 22 letters of the alphabet. So as we said, that's the opposite than God. So God's blessing is 22 and curses 8. Moses' blessing 8 and curses 22.